Jamaica. Make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
Three major incidents in less than 48 hours. 15 students injured in Dublin Castle, St. Andrew. A woman dead and 5 injured in another crash, also in St. Andrew, and a cyclist crushed near Heroes Circle in Kingston have reignited urgent calls for road safety reform. This evening we ask, are we doing enough to protect our children, pedestrians and cyclists? And what does the data say in relation to Jamaica's standing in the region when it comes to road fatalities? My guests will offer a wide range of perspectives in Crash Course, protecting Jamaica's most vulnerable road users.
Below me are remnants of Tuesday's tragic bus crash involving 20 students here in Dublin Castle, Gordon Town, St. Andrew. On the ground, pieces of shattered glass and items that appear to have belonged to occupants of the vehicle. This is a pencil. We're seeing coins. I'm also seeing the rear view mirror of the bus, the side mirror of the bus, as well as other fragments of the vehicle. A haunting reminder of what happened here yesterday. Now, CVM News understands that the bus was driving uphill. What happened when the vehicle got to the top of the hill, around about where the CVM vehicle is now parked, to have caused the bus to slide back downhill is still being investigated. However, the tire tracks that we're seeing over here on the banking would explain how the bus managed to have overturned and landed right there.
Well, everybody was a bit scared and talking what happened to the children. A man said he took out some of the children and he has to be hugging them because they were so scared.
The occupants of the bus were rushed to hospital. CVM News understands that while most have since been treated and released, a few remain admitted in serious condition. Among them, the driver, his son who was also in the vehicle, and a student. When our news team visited the hospital Tuesday night, the mood was grim, with anxious relatives sitting quietly, worry and exhaustion written all over their faces. We spoke with a mother whose 9-year-old son was among those injured in the crash. Melissa Ramsey explained that her son suffered a fractured arm, but says despite the ordeal, she's thankful things weren't worse.
Giving God thanks, it wasn't that bad. No life has lost. Actually, it was very traumatized, I'm telling you. But by the grace of God, that's glad.
When I saw the bus and the videos and I saw my students last night, I said it had to be a miracle from God.
Sheena Taylor Morgan is principal of the Louise Bennett Coverley Primary School. 13 of her students were involved in the crash. One of them is still in hospital.
The doctors decided that they would admit him just to keep him on observation because his injury was a head injury, and so he's in a lot of pain. But there are different things that have happened to different students. For example, we have students that their hand may be broken, the neck, so there are neck injuries, there are bruises, and as you are aware, the radiator burst, so the water from that affected some of the students, so they got burns. The students that are here at school currently, they are also traumatized. Some of them are relatives to those students that were involved in the accident. Some of them are neighbors to them.
Now, the Ministry of Education says counseling support will be offered to students and staff, including those from neighboring St. Martin de Porres Primary, whose students were also involved in the accident. The families have also been promised financial relief.
Their costs will be fully covered and their prescriptions will be picked up as well for them to ensure that those who have any issue of pain at all will be comfortable tonight. In the event anyone needs to be seen by the hospital again, they have been informed to reach out and come back.
We take a break, but more lead story right after.
Are you ready for something mega? Mega Mart's giving away a brand new 2025 Hyundai Tucson. Second prize, a mega shopping spree. Third prize, 30,000 monthly shopping spree. Okay, break it down for them.
Spend $6,500 or more before GCT. Fill out the entry form on your receipt. Drop it in the box. That's it.
Authorized under Section 50.
Get ready to take flight. It's Aviation Expo 2025 in collaboration with the Airports Authority of Jamaica and the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority, the island's ultimate aviation showcase and family fun day. Join us Saturday, October 4 from 12 to 8 p.m. at Tinson Penn Aerodrome in Kingston with show host Ian Ellis. And guess what? It's free. Plus, the JCAA and JDF will be recruiting. Follow at Aviation Expo JA for updates.
At Hawkeye, we work hard to develop state-of-the-art security solutions like our new Total Connect smart home automation system that gives you 24/7 access to control your appliances, lights, cameras, and doors using your smartphone, tablet, or PC. As the most trusted electronic security company in Jamaica, Hawkeye has the fastest response times to get to you when you need us most. Trust Hawkeye's Total Connect. Hawkeye, securing what matters most.
Good evening and welcome back to Lead Story. I'm Nika Lewis. This evening we are taking a crash course as we seek to advance the cause of protecting Jamaica's most vulnerable on the nation's roads. Before, we would have seen a package by Amoy Harriet dissecting a little more of what we heard happened in Dublin Castle, St. Andrew last evening, which involved several primary school aged students. Now my guests this evening are ACP Dr. Gary McKenzie. He's the head of the Constabulary's Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, short PSTEB, and Mr. Richard Troop. He's the Director of Safety and Security in Schools at the Ministry of Education. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good evening to you and your viewers.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners and viewers.
Thank you both. Well, I'll begin with you, Mr. Troop, because from that package, we would have learned of yesterday's crash that impacted several students. What's the latest update on those students, and if you know the disposition of the bus driver?
Let me begin by endorsing what the parent would have said earlier. We must be, as a nation, as a ministry, we are extremely grateful that the children and the occupants of the vehicle, even though they are traumatized by the incident, some would have received injuries as a result of the incident. No life was lost, and we are so grateful for that. Indeed. In the context of, how the bus would have appeared after the accident. So that is good. The Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, it is customary in a situation of this nature. Our trauma management team have been mobilized to provide support to the two schools impacted by the accident. I suspect today that was done to provide support to the school community and to the children. This is going to be an ongoing activity because certainly the trauma team guidance counselors will also be interfacing with the children and their families within their respective household. And we are grateful for this level of support because, an accident of this nature can be very traumatic and the trauma can last for some time. So it's very important that we create a space and the enabling environment for our children and stakeholders of the schools to get the necessary support at this time.
Yes.
As a safety and security in schools unit, we will also conduct an investigation, but we have given the school the space and the time to just absorb the intervention, the trauma, and the support to the school in terms of our trauma team. But as a unit, we will be visiting the school in the course of this week to turn to do our investigation on what would have transpired. We know it's a reminder to the nation that our children commuting to and from school is an area of concern. As a matter of fact, when we did our Safe School Perception Survey in 2023, a project collaboratively done by the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, the Ministry of National Security and the Planning Institute of Jamaica, our over 9,700 children that participate in the survey indicated that threat to their safety and security is as they commute to and from school. And so this is an area of concern to the ministry. And that's why as a ministry, we were so grateful for the National Rural School Bus Program, the rollout of that initiative to ensure that our children are afforded with a safe, reliable, and affordable transportation system. We only hope and we trust that we will continue to give support to this program over time so that as many communities and as many children as possible will benefit from this level of support to them so that they can feel safe as they traverse to and from school. We know the parish of St. Andrew has been a major cause for concern. Several years ago, there was after a heavy rainfall in that space, a child was journeying from home to school. I think she was walking, and she was abducted, raped, and killed. And so as a ministry, the parish of St. Andrew has been an area of focus for us. The challenges, though, given the terrain, the difficulty for big units to traverse that space. And so we continue to encourage our schools, to make the kind of strategic linkages with operators in the space.
Yes.
To partner with our schools to provide, safe, reliable transportations for our nation's children. This is something that we will continue to give our focus attention.
Well, Dr. Mackenzie, I want to bring you into the conversation. He's the head of PSTEB, that's the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement branch of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, because we also learned of another incident just this morning, and this one involved a motorcyclist, or rather a cyclist, a man who was reportedly mowed down by a truck in the vicinity of, I understand he was riding a bicycle, or we call them pedal cyclists. So in the vicinity of National Heroes Park was where this tragedy struck. What can you tell us about that particular incident and possibly the victim?
Well, what I can say is that the victim was, as you had said, was riding his bicycle. Unfortunately, the truck came in contact with the bicycle, and it was a crash. The person fell off the pedal cycle, got some injuries, hit his head, and unfortunately, he died as a result of that. The thing is, and as you have said, over the past few weeks, we have had a number of crashes involving other persons, to include motorcyclists, as well as we had the crash with the children, and we are very happy that, their lives were spared. It is of importance that when we use the roadway, we are very careful. And so when we look at the the road users, it is not just one set of persons, but certainly various categories of persons that are affected when one uses the roadway.
Yes.
As it relates to
ACP, I want you to hold that thought about relating to the passengers, because we're up on a quick break and we'll be right back with more.
Get ready to take flight. It's Aviation Expo 2025 in collaboration with the Airports Authority of Jamaica and the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority, the island's ultimate aviation showcase and family fun day. Join us Saturday, October 4 from 12 to 8 p.m. at Tinson Penn Aerodrome in Kingston with show host ENIT Ellis. And guess what? It's free. Plus, the JCAA and JDF will be recruiting. Follow at Aviation Expo JA for updates.
Get ready for Jesus 2025, 25th Jubilee Year of Hope with Father Holong and Friends, a celebration of faith and the life of Jesus Christ at the National Arena. Gala shows on September 27 to 28 and October 4 to 5. Tickets adults $2,000 and $3,000, children $1,200. All proceeds support missionaries of the poor. Get your tickets now. Call 876-774-7350 or 876-809-5877. Jesus 2025. You can't afford to miss it.
Every day starts with care. Care that's always close. Supermed Family of Pharmacies is where you go for everything you need. From your morning routine to life's biggest moments, Supermed Family of Pharmacies is always by your side. Whether it's prescriptions or household essentials, trust the care that's close to home. Super happy, super healthy, Supermed.
Thanks so much for staying with us. We continue Lead Story with my guests, Mr. Richard Troop. He is the director of the Safety in Schools unit within the Ministry of Education, and ACP Dr. Gary Mackenzie, the Constabulary's head of Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement, PSTEB. That's the shortened version of it. But before we went to the break, ACP Mackenzie, you were sharing some concerns and considerations, especially among passengers and some of the vulnerable road users. You may please continue.
Right. So as it relates to passengers, we have seen that there has been an unfortunate increase in terms of the number of passengers that have died this year in comparison to last year. In fact, we have 10 more. At this time, we have 42, whilst last year it was 32. So we have some concerns. It is very noteworthy that as it relates to children, we have not seen any passengers, especially from PPV, that have died so far this year. And one of the things is that whilst adult passengers, they can really speak up against certain types of driving, we know that children usually are at a disadvantage, and that is where we need to ensure that they are properly protected. And so one of the things that we have to do is to, one, ensure that the drivers are behaving responsible. Two, to ensure that the vehicles that are being used, especially to transport passengers, more so children, are in a roadworthy condition. And three, to ensure that once they are carrying those persons, that they do not overload the vehicle and drive in a manner which is unsafe. And so that is something that we have to continue to work on.
Indeed. Well, Mr. Troop, we're wondering if there are any plans to certify the drivers of vehicles for minors, especially in this instance where we're seeing some of the drivers, you know, they're not necessarily mandated to know defensive driving. Is that something the ministry is contemplating, especially for those who are transporting minors particularly?
as a ministry, transportation is not our business. Under our rural school bus program and under the national rural transportation program, I think as a ministry we have been a strong advocate to ensure that schools, when they engage private operators to transport our nation's children, that the due diligence are done to ensure that these individuals are responsible drivers. We ask them to ensure that the background check is done to ensure that these are not drivers with outstanding tickets and embrace a culture of lawlessness on our roads. As a matter of fact, many of our schools have failed to identify private operators to be engaged because these are operators refuse to conform with the minimum standards established by the ministry and our participating schools. So, for example, we encourage our schools to encourage the private operators to ensure that they are transporting passengers within the seating capacity of the vehicles. And so these are some of the concerns that we would put on the table. We know our parents, many of our parents across the island, they do engage private operators to transport their children. And they too, as parents, have been holding the drivers accountable for a standard of driving. And this is something that we will always encourage as a ministry to so do. We recognize that one of the things we would hope is that the associations will hold their members accountable to responsible driving practices. I think that is where the onus must be. The associations partnering with this membership to ensure that these kinds of defensive training is made available to our operators. But they would often say that oftentimes it is not their membership, but in the industry you do have persons who just buy a vehicle to eat a food kind of thing. And we're hoping that the regulatory agencies will hold these operators accountable to an acceptable standard of driving. We do say to children, in particular our nation's children, because we say to them that they too have a responsibility to choose the vehicles that they go into. And so we certainly say to them that they have a responsibility to make sure that they are not utilizing any public passenger vehicle where the operators operate in such a way of where indiscipline and lawlessness defines the service that they provide, that they have that right to choose another vehicle. And so we also put that responsibility on our students to say, you can do some things differently too. And we're happy that we're seeing many of our nation's children responding accordingly, recognizing that they have the power to choose the vehicle that they would go in, and for the operators that are not operating in tandem with the law, that they choose not to take those vehicles. And we can only salute them for those kinds of actions that they are taking.
Well, ACP Mackenzie, the data suggests from PAHO certainly that Jamaica's fatality rates are among the highest in the region. Is there any particular area of our national strategy that you believe is weak or requires a little more strengthening to prevent more loss of lives?
Right. So when we examine the data, and certainly what the investigations have proven, is that human error is the cause of more than 85% of crashes. And so we have to look at our methodology in terms of what persons actually learn, or what is the competence standards in terms of persons acquiring different types of driver's license. Certainly, of course, we need to look at that, and we also need to look at the information that is available in the environment to continue development and guidance. These are things that are being discussed at the highest level, and these are things that we have to look at changing. Certainly, persons need to operate in a manner where they themselves think of their own safety and the safety of others. And to the extent that the behavior is self-generated and self-destructive, then that's where we continue to have the problem.
And so how do we fix it? Your final minute, and then I ask the same of Mr. Troop.
Well, certainly, as I said before, we have to examine the system of how we educate persons to drive. And we are doing that. And I know that that is something that other countries have done. When one gets a driver's license, for example, then that's the end of it in terms of what they learn and what they are tested for. We may have to look at periodic testing to see whether or not persons who have done certain things on the roadway, whether or not they should be retested or undergo certain types of training. And that is something that I would certainly encourage.
All right. Mr. Troop, your final thoughts on a possible solution? Mr. Troop? All right.
That's the question for me? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Yes, we're wondering if you have any final thoughts on the road ahead and how to fix some of these problems.
Yeah.
It's your final minute.
I think that as a country, we should be extremely proud that the government of Jamaica would have taken the bold initiative to pilot on a phased basis a national rural transportation program. Truth be told, children from rural Jamaica have been at a very disadvantaged position for decades. We know the inadequate fleet of vehicle in these spaces. We know the cost of transportation. We know the culture of many times private operators that really try to move as fast as possible to ensure that the income base is one that they find acceptable. And so it is extremely important, the government of Jamaica investment in the rural transportation program. We trust that we will be committed